Okay, what I'm going to do in this video is to have a look at how to make changes to a duration map. And once you know how to make changes to one duration map, obviously you can apply the idea to all of the duration maps. And if you need to improve or increase the duration maps to get more fueling, then obviously you're going to have to change them all anyway. Now, at the end of the last video I'd stopped at the torque map, but all of these maps are on here on this Excel spreadsheet, and we are looking at a PD 130 1.9 TDI, and these are the maps that we've looked at so far. And one of the things that we'd found was that we would like to consider injecting 70 milligrams, but we stopped with a torque limit of 60 milligrams so that we wouldn't have to change duration maps. And as I explained in the last video, this can be quite complicated to fathom out, so I sort of stopped at the torque map and said, right, well, there's the sort of basic finish. So you could call this beginner's guide advanced, I suppose, because we're going to look at duration. Now here's the duration raw data taken straight off the same file that I've been using all along, and here it is displayed as a map. So I've just simply displayed it as a map by converting that into a map. Now here's the duration values. So 60 milligrams, this is the time in terms of degrees of crankshaft rotation to inject that much fuel. And we can see that as you increase down here the amount of fuel that you want to inject, not surprisingly the time it takes gets longer, so you'll need more degrees of crankshaft rotation as you go down a column. So it's relatively common sense, but you can't use just one column thanks to the revs rising, because obviously it's harder and harder to inject a certain amount in a certain number of rotations of the, or degrees of rotation of the crankshaft, if the crankshaft is getting faster and faster as it's turning. So you need different columns for different rev per minute for the engine. This becomes quite complicated in the sense that it's quite difficult to predict what any one of these values would be. And what we would really like to do ideally is to have, let's say, a value for 65 and a value for 70. Now I'll just make those bold so they match the ones above, and I will just format them so that we know that they are numbers. Okay, so what we would like is those two extra ones in there, and just to make sure we don't muddle them up, I'll just make them red, because I don't want to look at this and suddenly think where have they come from. So I'm just going to make those red for the moment. So what we would ideally like is we would like to have some more figures here, but of course we don't have some more figures here. So that's what we would like to do. We'd like some more figures. Now let's look at a point that seems a reasonable rev per minute. So let's have a look at 1500 revs per minute. That's the point at which the turbocharger is beginning to come on song. So if we were to look at the turbocharger coming on song at 1500 revs per minute, there we are, we've got the turbocharger at 1500 revs per minute, and we've got 20.32 at 55, 21.56 at 60. So what we would like is the next figure in that list, but of course we don't know what it is. Now there is a trick that you can use here which doesn't tell you the exact figure that you will want next, but it does give you a pretty good idea, because what you can do is you can look sideways and you can say, well, that's the next one going that way. What if I was going up? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that one, 22.78, into there, and then I'm going to go sideways again to 24, and I'm going to say, well, I'll put that one in there. And then of course when I'm here I'm on 22.78, so in there I'm going to pinch that one next to it, so I'm going to put 24 in there, and then the next one I'm going to put the next number, which is that one, which is 25.55, and then here I'm going to put 25.55, and there I'm going to put the next one, which is 27.28. Now I could get Excel to do this automatically for me, but I'm doing it in a laborious fashion because I want to run through slowly and keep pointing out what it is I'm doing. So here I'm going to put 27.28, and then here I'm going to put 28.24, and then here I'm going to put 28.24, and here I'm going to put 28.97, and then here I'm going to put 28.97, and here I'm going to put 29.18, and then here I'm going to put 29.18. You may have spotted a problem I'm going to have in a minute, and here I'm going to put 29.58, and here I'm going to put 29.58, and here I'm going to put 29.81, and here I'm going to put 29.81, and here I've run out of clues that I can pinch. So once I get to there, I've run out of clues that I can pinch, but I can go back this way, can't I? So in other words, here I can put 21.56, and here I can put 22.78, and here I can put 20.39, and here I can put 21.56, and here I can put 18.7, and here I can put 20.39, and here I can put 17.46, and here I can put 18.7, and then here I can put 16.92, and here I can put 17.46, and then here I can put 17.58, and then here, oops, have I made a mistake? 17.4, no, 16.92. I can put, yeah, 16.92. Sorry, I'm just not paying attention to what I'm doing. 16.92, which is a little bit strange. I've gone wrong somewhere. No, that's okay. I'm sorry, I'm just getting myself a bit confused looking at the figures because obviously they do change. Right, and then we've got a slight problem over here because we haven't got anything to go by. Now, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that these all come up as 2 decimal points so that they all look the same. So, sales number, 2 decimal points. Okay, right, now the reason I did it like this was to give us a clue as to what the numbers might or might not be doing, and it's a sort of a shortcut to getting into the area that I want to be in the sense that I don't have to make the numbers up, I can use some numbers that are already there. Now, the only way to know if we are getting anywhere near a sensible answer is to look, and it's hard just looking at the numbers. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to grab that column and I'm going to go for an XY scatter graph with smooth lines, and I'm going to say next. That's okay. That's the sort of thing that I want it to be, so that's okay. Series 1, well, I'll just call that 1500 for now because that's 1500 revs. The X values I would like to be all the way down to there to include the new values I've just made up. And I'm going to say next. I will stick the legend at the bottom out of the way, and I would definitely like lots of grid lines because I want to have a good look at what I'm doing. So I'm going to say finish, and then I'm going to move this down to here. I'll put that up there out of the way a bit and make it a lot bigger. Whoa! I hate it when it does that. And it's still way too big. I hate the way it does that, but there you go. Right, now you can see that my little trick has worked beautifully because here's the original graph and it stopped there at 60. Now, it doesn't take a genius, or you don't need brilliant eyesight or whatever to say to yourself, those two do look as if they're pretty much in line with everything that came before. Can't be exact because we don't know exactly how this was all worked out, but I'm sure you'll agree with me, if you look at that, that does look like it's okay. So delete that. Now I've got one that I'm not happy with, well, more than one, and that's these two here that I'm not particularly happy with what's happened with those. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a quick look at those. Scatter. Next series. I'm not even going to worry about name this time. I'm just going to have a look there. Next, I have some grid lines so I can have a look. Legend, we'll put that at the bottom as usual, and then I'm going to say finished. Right, and it obviously what we've got on here is we've got this odd little dip. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, but we've got this odd little dip here which we've managed to introduce as a result of using the figures that we have used. Now, quite why it has chosen to do that, I don't know, but we've got this odd little dip that's become introduced there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to consider not doing that. I'm going to consider maybe putting a couple more values in up here instead for that, but it doesn't matter because it's highly unlikely. I'll just get rid of that. No, you were supposed to go. There we go. It's highly unlikely that these values are going to make any real difference to anything because it's going to be virtually impossible to inject those sorts of quantities of fuel here. I mean, those sorts of revs per minute don't really exist, do they? So it's whether I need to do anything with those is very, very debatable. So far I think these are going to be okay. These values here will all be okay. So the only thing we need is some different values just to fill in the last 3 gaps that we've got here because we're not too sure what to do with those. Now I'm just going to completely guess here. I'm just going to say 31. Just no idea where that number has come from. I'm just going to say 31. And then I'm going to call up the graph again and just have a look at what I get. Series, not going to give it a name. The only thing I'm going to worry about is getting the axis data correct so that I can get a better look at the finished result. And I will just get rid of, where are we, legend, I hate the way that goes to the side, and I will stick some grid lines on, and I'll call that finished. I'll even leave that there, I won't worry too much. I'll make it a bit bigger. It looks as if it's tailing off, doesn't it? It looks as if we are struggling here. It looks as if we're being forced to tail off. If we were to consider that as a graph coming up here, it's beginning to curve over, and it's curved over more. It seems likely that we might not be able to manage 31. In fact, it seems likely that we would probably be sitting at the same value as last time on that one. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to say to myself, well, okay, 29.81. I'm just going to call that 30. That seems about as far as I'm going to manage. So maybe I'm pushing my luck trying to manage more than 30. So then I'm going to say, well, okay, I'll call that one 30, and I'll call that one 30. So I'm going to decide that that's my limit. So okay, so what I've got now then, and remember these are extras, so what I'm going to do, I don't want them confused with the map, I'm going to make them a different colour. So these are my extras. So now that I've got them, I've got new values, but I can't just use them because obviously they need to be in this map. And as I've said in the past, one of the easiest way of doing this is to ditch values that you don't think you're going to be wanting to use and then replace them with ones that you are going to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ditch these ones down here and hope that the ECU doesn't mind too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of that, so I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to put it in where these two are at the beginning. So I'm going to put that in there, and I'm going to say paste. So my first two rows have gone. So I'm starting at 5 now. And then I'm going to take the new one that I've just made, except in this case it's a new 2, and I'm going to put them in there. Now, it doesn't really matter. You probably could have got away with just taking one out and putting one in and allowing it to jump from 60 to 70, but I'm just going to go 60, 65, 70 on this occasion for no logical reason other than I want to. Now, having done this, you're up against one possible problem, which I did say in one of the other videos, or I might have said more than once. Sometimes taking out information right at the beginning, especially a naught value, causes hiccups with files. So just remember that if you now change all your duration maps to give you more fueling, if you know that what you've done up until now, so right up to the point of the torque map, if you've looked at the other videos, if everything worked fine up until that point, if you then put these modified duration maps into a file and something suddenly doesn't want to work properly, it may be because of this, and you may need to come back and put back in the beginning row there. As I said, I've never quite managed to work out why that is sometimes a problem and sometimes not. It may even not be a problem. It may be an error that I've made and not noticed, because I'm not claiming that I know all the answers, and I hope for God's sake you don't watch these and think, oh, this chap knows what he's talking about, because I'm giving you the benefit of what I do know, and that doesn't mean that I know everything there is to know. I'm just doing the best I can. Right, that then is duration finished. And all you need to do is do that for all 5 maps. So modify all 5 maps and you will be good to give it a try. So I'll stop there. I suspect this one may well have turned out too long. I hope not, because I hope you haven't been bored out of your mind.